So the conference today is about eat, play, live. So the two things that I really like in life are eating and actually doing research. Okay, and those two things are my play. So I'm going to talk to you today about some of the research I do, which is on why people like the foods they like. And this is kind of an interesting topic given the problem we're having today in the United States with obesity and people not eating very healthy. And unfortunately, human beings are born liking fat and sweet, right? We just pop out that way. So in order to eat healthy, we would have to eat something other than fat and sweet things, probably. So what I'm interested in is finding out what things we could use to get people to eat a little bit more healthy and applying those. If you're parents, you can apply them in your house to your kids and applying them in schools, which I'm actually getting involved in some projects doing just that. I'm going to talk about some of my more recent stuff. I've been doing this for a long time, probably longer than some of you have been alive. But what I'm going to talk about is my more recent things, which is basically what's going on a plate of food. Generally, we don't eat just one food. We sit down, we have a meal, there's a number of foods on the plate, and I'm going to talk to you about how that influences how much we like the components of the meal. I'm actually going to talk science, so here's what you have to know, or at least one thing you have to know to understand what I'm talking about. Hedonics is liking. You know, hedonism, that's the root. So what we use is we generally have people rate how much they like foods using this scale. On the scale, minus 100 is the most unpleasant taste you can imagine. Plus 100 is the most pleasant taste you can imagine. 0 means you don't like it or dislike it, right? It's neither pleasant or unpleasant. And subjects can use any number between plus 100 and minus 100. Negative means yuck. Positive means yes. Okay. This is, let me just preface this by saying, sometimes people think, oh, well, we know how to get people to like foods, right? It's obvious. Sometimes it isn't obvious. The reason we do studies and the reason we do research is because sometimes you think something's going to happen and it doesn't. And here's one of those surprising times. In this study, this was done with college students. We first asked students, what 2 side dishes do you really like and what 2 side dishes do you really dislike? And what we found was that what they really dislike are red beets and lima beans, okay? And what they really like are potato chips and mac and cheese. Not really surprising. So what we wanted to do was find out, okay, if we present those really good things and really bad things with some other food, can we get them to like that food more? The food we chose was a vegan chicken tender, meaning it didn't have any chicken. Right. Okay. And we presented it in one of 2 ways, either with the 2 bad sides, the red beets and lima beans, or the 2 good sides, the chips and mac and cheese, and we had them eat the meal. And what we thought going into this was that, you know, if you present a food with other foods that people like, they should get to like that food more. Wouldn't you think that's true? Yeah. Wrong. Okay, what we found, and you should pay attention to the, I'm challenged, right, left, challenged. The thing that says tender, those lines, okay? On the left, I guess it's your left, right? Okay. What you should pay attention to are those. That's the rating of the actual tender that was presented either with the red beets and lima beans or the 2 good sides, the mac and cheese and chips. And the blue and green lines, you'll see that those people liked the tender a lot. You see how high those lines are? Yeah. What are they presented with? The bad sides. Okay. The red and the purple lines, a lot lower, presented with the good sides. You know, compared to mac and chips, a fake chicken tender is not that good. Okay, so it turns out if you really want to get somebody to like something and you're presenting a meal, present it with things they hate. Okay, so it's really counterintuitive, but it's a big effect. Okay, recently I've been doing things that's a little bit more intuitive. And that has to do with presenting food on the plate and how attractive it is. You've probably been in restaurants and you've gotten a meal and you've sat there and said, "Oh, it's so beautiful. I don't even want to eat it." Right? People whip out their cell phones and take pictures, right? And then they post them online, right? There's all this food online now. It's beautiful. So I was talking to a friend of mine who actually studies psychology of aesthetics. That is he's mostly interested in what makes art, like oil paintings, beautiful. And it turns out there's a couple of things that people have found that makes things beautiful, and one is balance. So if you look at a piece of artwork, an oil painting, it should be equally heavy on either side, meaning that if you stuck a nail in the middle, it wouldn't look like it was going to tilt, right? It looked like it was balanced. And so balance matters. The other thing that matters is complexity. Something that's too simple, yeah. Too complex, also, yeah, right? But it's like the Goldilocks effect, right? It has to be kind of like moderate in complexity to be just right. And so we thought that should work on the plate too. So we decided to do a study. And what we used were water chestnuts and tahini. And if you look at these presentations, the top two are unbalanced, meaning they're heavier on the right than they are on the left. The bottom two are balanced. They're symmetrical, right? Very even. The ones on the right are a little bit more complex because the tahini, we dyed it green and red with food coloring. And on the other side, of course, everything's monochrome. What did we find? We had people judge how attractive the plates were. They really liked the one on the bottom that was balanced and also a little complex on the bottom right, with the little green lines and the red dot. The one they disliked the most was the one above that, which was a little bit more complex, but it's also unbalanced. And what happened there is color actually causes heaviness. So the color actually made it more unbalanced. So balance seems to be the key on the attractiveness of the food. However, when we asked them which one, about willingness to try these things, they were more willing to try the two on the left-hand side that were not dyed, right? The monochrome ones. And we thought, wow, those are boring, but they were also not scary, right? I think people thought, what is this green and red stuff? It's kind of odd. And then we actually had them taste the water chestnut. So they put the water chestnut in the mouth, rated how much they liked it, and we found absolutely no effect of any of this. But of course, a water chestnut is a very weird thing to eat. So we decided we should really use real food and try this over again and just look at the balance, right, of the meal, how balanced the meal is on the plate. And so we started with the top study, and on the top there, what you see is a little thing of hummus in the middle of the lettuce leaf with pita chips and carrots and tomatoes. And so all the components were the same except one presentation, it was symmetrical and balanced, which is on the right, and on the left is the one that is unbalanced. And guess what? Success. We found that people who got the balanced presentation liked the hummus better than the people who got the other presentation. But one of my students said, but Dr. Zellner, it looks like the one on the left, it fell on the floor, and you picked it up and put it back on the plate. So maybe they were just scared, And so we thought, okay, what we'll do is we'll make things that are equally balanced, but one of them is neat and the other one isn't so neat, right? It doesn't look like a whole lot of care was taken with it. So we got chicken salad from a deli, And we either presented it like you see on the right, which I got this little like scoop and made a nice little mound. This is about the extent of my plating ability. Or we got the scoop of chicken salad and we spread it out and made it all messy looking. And sure enough, they thought the one on the left was messy and they thought the one on the right was neat. Okay, that's good. Then we had them taste it. They loved the chicken salad. And that's the liking ratings on the bottom. They loved the chicken salad when it was presented in a neat presentation. 62, remember that scale, right? That's pretty good. Compared to 32, which was what they rated the chicken salad when it was messy. So it really increased liking of the chicken salad a lot. But, again, like, that's not really plating. I'm not a chef. So I decided, okay, I really, really need a real chef who really knows how to do this. And so I called in the CIA, not, the real CIA, the Culinary Institute of America. Okay, so I went up to Hyde Park and I got the guy in the center there who is a little bald. He's John Zierfoss. He's a chef up there, to come up with 2 different plates of food. Basically, we serve the same meal in one of their restaurants. I don't know how many of you have ever been up there. It's wonderful. So we took over a restaurant 2 nights. One night, they got, well, both nights, they got chicken with a sauce and a brown rice pilaf and string beans with almonds. And it was either presented in what we call the kind of the traditional way, which is chicken, rice pilaf. They made it in a mound, though, kind of like I did. I think they took the idea from me. And the string beans with the almonds. And it's like perfectly okay, right? Very neat. It doesn't look like it fell on the floor, right? It's perfectly fine. Or Chef Zierfoss did this wonderful other presentation with the string beans around the outside, and it's all very nice, and it flows very nicely. So one night, the diners got the one, the other night they got the other, and we asked them to rate how attractive the presentation was and how much they liked all the components of the meal. What you should notice in this graph is the blue lines are the pretty meal, and in fact, they found it to be prettier. Okay, so the presentation was better in the one that we thought was better, and less good in the other one, although it was perfectly okay. But look at the ratings of how much they like the different components. They like the chicken more, they like the sauce more, they actually like the brown rice pilaf more. Okay? What was interesting, particularly interesting about that, is that people were allowed to write comments. The ones who got that beautiful presentation wrote all kinds of comments about the brown rice pilaf. I don't like brown rice pilaf, but I really love this brown rice pilaf. I never eat brown rice, but this was the most fantastic thing I've ever eaten. It's like, wow, brown rice pilaf? They were just going on about how wonderful it was. We love this, right? Because what you want is people to eat brown rice, right? Not to hate brown rice. So the fact that presenting this meal that way actually got them to like something they thought they didn't like was wonderful, right? It's exactly what we want to hear. Chefs want to try to use this to get diners to actually eat healthy food. A lot of chefs are into doing this. I'm currently talking to a group down in Philadelphia who's going into schools and trying to get kids to eat healthier food and provide healthier food to students. And we're trying to apply some of these techniques and some of the things I learned about how people get to like food to get students, get young adults to start eating a little bit better than they do. So, how does plating affect food? Weird thing, right? If you want somebody to like something, serve it with bad things on the plate. Okay, seems very weird. Neatness of the presentation affects liking, so just the fact that you put a lot of care into it is probably good, right? That you looks like you put a little effort into presenting it, even if at home you are not Chef Zierfoss, right? You can at least make it look a little neat. And lastly, the attractiveness of the presentation affects liking. So if you can really do it up big, do it up big, and everybody will like what you're serving. Thank you.